Welcome back to my channel. It's Jasmine. Today's video is going to be a review for Arteza Watercolors. They reached out to me and asked if I'd be like to do a review, and I said yes. So they sent me a pack, and I will have a fun little giveaway that I'll talk about at the end. So what I've done is I bought just a simple palette, which you'll need because these are tube watercolors, so you'll need something to dispense them into. And then at the top, I just took a piece of watercolor paper and I created a grid for myself, really simple with a ruler. And then took a waterproof pen and wrote in each of the colors. So you'll need to let this dry. You can use them wet, obviously, but a real trust of watercolors when they're dry, because you're not going to be putting them out of the tube. Some painters do paint fresh, but really, generally speaking, most of the watercolor you're going to do is dry. So I put it in my palette and let it dry. It probably took, I don't know, 3 or 4 days if I left it open to dry. In the summertime, it might dry a little faster. Kind of depends on the humidity as well. And so I've got my piece of watercolor paper that I did my grid on, and these are dry. So I want to test them to see how the pigment showed up when they are dry, because when they're wet, they're still really fresh and you get a different look. They're typically a lot more concentrated when they're wet as opposed to when they're dry. So the first thing that stood out to me about these was that the colors were really vibrant, but as with most watercolors, some colors have better pigmentation than others, and that's just the nature of the color itself, like a brown or a green or a blue. Typically your browns will be a little less pigmented than, say, your blues or greens. And now the price for this was $27 or $26.99 for 24 colors. So a little bit over $1 a color, which isn't bad in comparison to most of your other same quality watercolors. These don't have a whole lot of granulation to them, which is a texture that shows up once it's dry. And that can be good or bad. If you like a super smooth look, that's going to be a good thing. If you like to have a little more texture in your watercolor, then you won't get a whole lot of that with these. These are generally pretty smooth. The browns, you have a little bit of that texture left, but generally speaking for the lot, you don't have a lot of that. The thing I noticed about these that was different from, let's say, the Gansai Tambi or the Koi watercolors, which are about the same quality level as these, was that these don't layer as well as those do. What I mean by layering is, oh good, here it is. So this is a chart I did. And I got this idea from Sandy Almack. If you took her watercolor class with the Daniel Smith watercolors, she took 6 colors, 3 warm and 3 cool, red, white, and blue of each. Red, white, and blue. Red, yellow, and blue of each. And so she did this chart. And she wanted to show how many different shades you could get by layering the different cool and warm tones over one another. So I thought that would be a cool test to see how these did with that. So what I did was I did each color and then I let it dry, and then I'd go in with the corresponding color over the top to see how well they layered, if they blended, if they reactivated once it was dry. If you put wet medium on top, would it reactivate? That kind of test. And these, I noticed that the red does reactivate a tiny bit, and you'll see that a little bit later. But the other colors really don't. So if you want to layer with these, I suggest mixing your color wet and then applying it rather than trying to glaze. So I'm layering my blue over my red to see if I can get a nice purple tone. So the phthalo blue over the rose was a nice deeper blue purple. Then you can see where I did like the rose over the yellows, and it didn't blend well on the paper because these were dry and then wet on top. So that's what I mean by they don't layer as well as I would like. And like I said, you can get around that by mixing your colors on your palette first and then applying it to your project. But if you want more texture, then this will definitely give you more texture, as you can see with my swatches. Now these weren't, I didn't do this painstakingly to get, you know, the perfect square and perfect blend, things like that. I wanted to see how it would look with, now this is sped up, so it looks like I'm doing it really quick and dirty. I didn't do it quite that bad. But I wanted to see what it would look like for your average card maker who's not going to have a whole lot of time to spend layering and glazing and mixing and those kinds of things. They want to be able to do it simply and quickly. So here I have, this is a Mondo Holly by Ellen Hudson Image, stamped in waterproof ink on some watercolor paper. And I will have the card, the 2 cards actually that I made with these, in a separate video. I wanted to keep this one relatively short with just the watercolor review. So I'm kind of showing you how I'm layering the colors and glazing with a dry medium, dry paper, and then the wet medium on top versus a wet on wet technique. And I wanted to keep this a little more precise and a little more clean. And I did like how these layered together over one another, but I am using some colors in the same family, so mostly greens, a little bit of blue, to kind of keep a little bit of continuity to it, but also gaining variability. And I was quite pleased with the finished product that I was able to get with these paints. Sorry if you can hear that. My husband's listening to a podcast. And this is sped up to the painting, so I don't actually paint this fast. Wouldn't it be awesome if you could paint this fast? You could get like 100 cards done a minute. So here I've got another project. Now this one I did a wet on wet technique with, well, really the whole thing. So I went in with my green and I wet all my leaves, and then I applied color and I let it bleed out of the lines. And I wanted to create a very soft and hazy look to this. I also wanted to find out if I could, after it's dry, if I can go in and glaze over the top. And I'm doing that with the reds. So I put water down for the berries, and then I'm applying my color. And that top edge, you'll see where I blend it out to where it fades into just the blue, and you don't really see a border or an edge between the berries and the background. And with this one, I wanted to create a lot of texture, so I did a lot of hard edges, which you'll see in the bottom left corner of the holly leaves. You see a lot of hard edges there. And then in the top, I kind of let it blend out to create more softer edges. So those are easy techniques for you to use to create a lot of texture in your projects. And they're easy. They're not hard. You just kind of apply your color and let it dry and see what you think. And you can go back in and blend some of them out. Sometimes you can't. It just kind of depends on the paper and the paint, a lot of different different variables, but so you can see where I'm letting that paint just bleed out and blend out. And there's where I blended off that edge so that the red fades into the blue and you don't really see a specific edge. So the folks at Arteza were kind enough to allow me to give 2 of my viewers a chance to win one of the sets of watercolors. So leave me a comment below in the video to let me know kind of what you liked and what you didn't like, what you want to see next. And the coupon code that I talked about will also be in the description box, so check that out. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you guys later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.